a tireless fighter for equality, introducing Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony was a beacon of hope and a tireless fighter for equality. She dedicated her life to advocating for women's rights, leaving an indelible mark on American history. Her unwavering determination and powerful voice helped pave the way for women's suffrage and inspired generations to fight for social justice. Anthony's story is a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of challenging unjust laws and societal norms. Susan B. Anthony's name has become synonymous with the women's rights movement. Her journey began in a time when women were denied basic rights. They couldn't vote, own property, or even control their own earnings. Anthony dared to challenge these injustices. She bravely spoke out against the limitations placed on women. Her activism helped to ignite a movement that would forever change the landscape of America. Anthony faced immense opposition and criticism throughout her life, but she refused to be silenced. She understood that achieving equality for women would require a monumental effort. It would demand unwavering commitment and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Early influences, the seeds of activism. These early influences were crucial in shaping the path that Susan B. Anthony would eventually take. Born in 1820, Susan B. Anthony's upbringing played a pivotal role in shaping her worldview. Her childhood home was a place where ideas of justice and equality were not just discussed, but lived out daily. Her Quaker family instilled in her a strong sense of justice and equality. The Quakers, known for their progressive views, believed in the equality of all people, regardless of gender or race. They believed in the inherent worth of all individuals, regardless of gender. This belief was a cornerstone of Anthony's upbringing and would later become a cornerstone of her activism. This upbringing provided a solid foundation for Anthony's later activism. It was in this environment that she learned the importance of standing up for what is right. It taught her the importance of standing up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. The Quaker meetings she attended were often filled with discussions about social justice and the need to fight against oppression. Anthony's father, Daniel Anthony, was a strong advocate for social justice. He was a man who believed deeply in the principles of equality and fairness. He instilled in her a deep sense of empathy for the marginalized and oppressed. He often spoke about the importance of helping those who were less fortunate and standing up against injustice. He believed in the power of education and encouraged Susan to pursue knowledge. He understood that education was a powerful tool for change and empowerment. Anthony's mother, Lucy Reed Anthony, too, played a significant role in shaping her daughter's character. She was a woman of strong will and determination. She taught her the importance of self-reliance and independence. Lucy believed that women should be able to stand on their own and make their own decisions. This upbringing fostered in Anthony a belief in the equal capabilities of women. She grew up believing that women were just as capable as men and deserved the same opportunities. As a young woman, Anthony witnessed firsthand the injustices faced by women. She saw how society treated women as inferior and denied them basic rights. She saw their voices silenced and their opportunities limited. Women were often relegated to the background, their contributions overlooked and undervalued. This experience fueled her passion for social change and ignited within her a desire to fight for women's rights. She realized that change was necessary and that she had a role to play in making it happen. She realized that without equal rights, women would continue to be treated as second-class citizens, denied the same opportunities and freedoms as men. This realization became the driving force behind her lifelong commitment to activism and social justice. Susan B. Anthony's early experiences and the values instilled in her by her family laid the groundwork for her future as a leading figure in the fight for women's suffrage. Her journey was just beginning, but the seeds of activism had already taken root, ready to grow into a powerful movement for change. Finding her voice in a world that often silenced women was no small feat. Anthony's entry into the women's rights movement was a defining moment in her life and in the history of social justice. In the mid-19th century, the abolitionist movement was gaining momentum in the United States, a country grappling with the moral and ethical implications of slavery. Susan B. Anthony, deeply troubled by the injustice of slavery, joined the movement with a fervent desire to make a difference. She quickly became a vocal advocate for the rights of enslaved people, using her voice to speak out against the atrocities of slavery. Through her work in the abolitionist movement, she met other like-minded individuals who shared her passion for justice and equality. Many of them were women who also shared her passion for social justice, and they formed a tight-knit community of activists. Anthony's involvement in the abolitionist movement opened her eyes to the widespread discrimination faced by women, a realization that would shape her future endeavors. She realized that the fight for women's rights was intertwined with the fight against slavery, as both struggles were rooted in the belief that all human beings deserve equal rights and opportunities. Both struggles were rooted in the belief that all human beings deserve equal rights and opportunities, regardless of their gender or race. This realization marked a turning point in Anthony's life, as she began to see the connections between different forms of oppression and the need for a unified fight for justice. She shifted her focus to advocating for women's suffrage, believing that the right to vote was fundamental to achieving equality and that without it, women would never be able to fully participate in society. In 1851, a pivotal moment occurred in Anthony's life that would further solidify her commitment to the women's rights movement. She met Elizabeth Cady Stanton, another prominent figure in the burgeoning women's rights movement, and the two women quickly formed an instant bond and a lifelong friendship. They recognized in each other a shared passion for social justice and a commitment to fighting for women's rights, and together they would become a formidable force in the movement. Their partnership was marked by a deep mutual respect and a shared vision for a more just and equitable society, and they worked tirelessly to advance the cause of women's rights. Together they would become a formidable force in the movement, organizing rallies, giving speeches, and advocating for legislative change to secure the rights of women. The fight for suffrage, a lifelong battle. This struggle was not just a fleeting moment in history, but a prolonged and arduous journey that spanned decades. It was a battle fought on multiple fronts, from the streets to the courts and in the hearts and minds of the people. Susan B. Anthony dedicated her life to securing voting rights for women. Born in 1820, she grew up in a Quaker family that believed in equality for all, which profoundly influenced her life's work. Her commitment to the cause was unwavering, and she became a symbol of the suffrage movement. She firmly believed that suffrage was essential for women to have a voice in shaping the laws and policies that govern their lives. Anthony argued that without the right to vote, women would remain second-class citizens, unable to influence the decisions that affected their daily lives. She tirelessly traveled across the country, delivering powerful speeches and organizing campaigns to rally support for women's suffrage. Her speeches were not just words, they were calls to action, urging women to stand up and demand their rights. Anthony's dedication and unwavering belief in the cause inspired countless women and men to join the movement. Her ability to galvanize support was instrumental in building a broad coalition that spanned different social classes and regions. Anthony understood that changing deeply ingrained societal norms would be an uphill battle. The societal norms of the 1800s were rigid, and the idea of women participating in politics was seen as radical and even dangerous by many. She faced constant opposition from those who believed that women should not have a role in politics. These opponents included influential politicians, religious leaders, and even some women who believed that their place was in the home. They argued that women were too emotional to vote rationally, or that their place was in the home, not in the public sphere. These arguments were deeply rooted in the patriarchal values of the time, which sought to keep women in subservient roles. Despite these challenges, Anthony remained undeterred. Her resolve was unshakable, and she continued to push forward, knowing that the fight for suffrage was a just and noble cause. She knew that achieving suffrage would require resilience, strategic planning, and a steadfast commitment to the cause. Anthony and her fellow suffragists meticulously planned their campaigns, understanding that every action needed to be calculated and purposeful. Anthony and her fellow suffragists employed various tactics to advance their cause. They understood that a multifaceted approach was necessary to break down the barriers that stood in their way. They organized petitions, lobbied lawmakers, and held public demonstrations to raise awareness about women's suffrage. These actions were designed to keep the issue in the public eye and to pressure lawmakers to take action. They wrote articles, pamphlets, and books to educate the public about the importance of women's right to vote. These publications were crucial in spreading their message and countering the misinformation spread by their opponents. They challenged discriminatory laws in court, hoping to overturn legal barriers that prevented women from voting. These legal battles were long and arduous, but they were essential in laying the groundwork for future victories.